You read the headlines every day in the press of Atlantic City. Now, hear the voices behind the stories, along with the newsmakers that make it happen. Business, entertainment, food, sports, like you've never heard it before. Off the Press with Scott Cronick.
Well, it is not Scott Cronick today, and it's not going to be Scott Cronick tomorrow. It's Dave Delaney. I'm sitting in these 2 days, and I am really excited because I have a couple of awesome guests, and then I have a friend or two that are just okay guests. And I'm just excited for these 2 days, and hopefully we're going to get your mind off the world events for a little bit, because if you start thinking about the world, you're going to just feel awful. I'm always thrilled, and to open up in a second, you're going to get to hear, he's become my friend, Brian Tice. Brian's been a guest now 3 or 4 times with me. His book's The Infinite Feast. You should be subscribing to the newsletter. We're going to talk a little bit of Mardi Gras, and we're going to talk about food trends. Then I got Heather Mistrata, who's going to talk, who's president of a nonprofit that helps women who are dealing with challenges in their lives. And at 5 o'clock, the one and only Graham Nash is going to be with us. He's performing in the area next week. And I've been telling my friends that's going to be an interview. I'm going to sit back like, oh, you're Graham Nash. But I talked to David Spatz, and Graham is supposed to be really cool, and his people say he's cool, but I have not talked to him until 5 o'clock today. But I am thrilled because I try to always fit him in, and his schedule is busy when I guest host here at News Talk 1400 WOND. Brian Tice, because Brian is fun and food together. And Brian, hey, good to have you back with us.
It's great to be with you, Dave. I'm so glad to see your face. I can
it
see
is good to see your face.
Can't. It's the radio. They can't see your face, but I can.
And usually you're calling in or something, and so we don't get this face-to-face. First thing, you put out the book Infinite Feast, but the newsletter and everything, and you're taking off. You're all over the country. You got to feel good about the success that the Infinite Feast has been for you.
Thank you. I really do. And, it's like anything in life, any endeavor in life. It's all about the people you work with and the people that support you and the people that care about you. And so, I usually don't cry this earlier in an interview, but when you think about the folks that have your back and know where to put you and how to use you to your best advantage, and they work so hard for you, it really just makes you kind of well up. I've had so many wonderful people in my life to get me to the sort of milestone, really, that I had on Tuesday when I was live in the studio for the first time. I've been live on Zoom quite a few times. But I was actually in the studio, and it was so much more fun because you could talk to people in person. It was terrific. It's like, hooray! It's the end of COVID. Well, we think anyway, right? So, and it was very exciting. It was very exciting. I loved it.
Well, one of the things I love, and I've told you about the newsletter. You have some old classic cookbook you put in there. You have some fun stuff, and it really can work for cooks of any skill level. So. You don't have to be a chef to enjoy the Infinite Feast. And we're going to talk in a second about something you and I have been texting back and forth about. But really, the Infinite Feast is for everybody.
Yes, absolutely. My motto is you don't have to be perfect. You just have to be special. And when you think about it, that's true, right? I mean, if Julia Child always said, if you drop the roast on the floor, pick it up, nobody's going to know. It's in that vein, the same idea. It's kind of like, just get on with your life. You might have made a mistake, but everybody's still going to love it because you're so special the way you do it. And if you put your, a little bit of your heart into it and maybe a little bit of your brain, if you got one, then it's going to turn out okay.
So listeners out there, go get a piece of paper and a pen as you listen to Brian and I talk. So you can write down the link. We're not going to just say it now, and then you're going to say, oh, I didn't hear it. Get a piece of paper and a pen and write it down. Or if you're sitting right now if you're listening to WOND Radio on WONDradio.com, you write it at your computer. You'll be able to I can't do those multitask. I need to write it down, and then I
just write it down, you guys.
Write it down. All right. You are a New Orleans based guy. New Orleans is sort of your center of life. And next week is Fat Tuesday, Mardi Gras.
That's right.
So that means all of us need to be focused on the cooking cuisine of New Orleans.
You do. You have no choice. You must make Creole food this week or else.
Okay, so first thing I just want to say, define for our audience Creole food. And then we are going to talk about food trends. We're going to try to squeeze all this in. But what makes Creole food different than New Jersey shore food?
Absolutely. So not to belabor it and talk for 30 minutes, which I could do, but Creole food is a melting pot, really, of West Africa and France and all these other different influences that came together in New Orleans and as one of the only real indigenous cuisines in the United States way back in the day. You've also got the Cajun side of things, which came from Canada, and those folks settled in the same neck of the woods. The Cajuns tend to have their own idiosyncrasies as far as their dishes. Their roux are a lot darker than the Creole roux, for example. The Creoles might put tomatoes in their gumbo, whereas the Cajuns won't. They'll, have more of the kind of the wild animals like the alligator meat and that sort of thing that get thrown into the Cajun gumbo. So there are differences between them, but overall, Creole is, more the white tablecloth cuisine of New Orleans, but shares so much with, the rest of the region as well. And it's absolutely, delicious. I couldn't love it more.
So for a Mardi Gras feast, what should people be focused on? And from the Infinite Feast, what should people be focused on?
Well, sure. You and I were talking before we actually went live about your
our little spat.
We didn't have a spat. No, I like it when people question. I've got to defend my recipes. I have something called the hot dog jambalaya, and as I was explaining it, it's inspired by Ignatius J. Riley, who is one of the most important, preeminent figures in New Orleans literature, and like Blanche Dubois from A Streetcar Named Desire. And so I said, what can I do to update or change or do a fusion or whatever you want to call it on something kind of standard like a jambalaya? I said, why don't we put hot dogs in instead of andouille sausage? And it's great, and people love it. Nobody, like I said, has thrown it into the plant. People just chow on down, and they love it. So it's a recipe I'll go to the mat for. I think it's terrific. And I will promise you. I just made it on DC TV, I guess, last week sometime. You alluded to my great reach. I'm always on some TV. Yeah.
Well, I'll make a promise to you before you're on next. I will make this, and I'll make it for a group of people. So I will, but I am going to get the hot dogs from Buffalo.
Good, you should. You can, and I think everyone should just really shake it up. The recipe I made on WGN on Tuesday, crazy ass recipe with all these kinds of things in it. And the co-anchor that didn't interview me, but he's terrific, named Patrick, came up at the end and said, "Hey, I'm going to make your recipe tomorrow night, but I'm leaving the pasta out because I'm watching my waistline." Sorry, Patrick, I didn't mean to reveal that if you're listening. But anyway, aren't we all watching our waistline? Yeah.
Yeah.
And you can totally just shake it up and just do it your way, right? Absolutely. So if you want to put something other than a regular hot dog, a regular Hebrew National or whatever, you might have in your fridge, go for it. Put something else different.
So what makes it a jambalaya? So I'm accepting the hot dog substitution from the andouille sausage.
Thank you, Dave.
Because you're my friend, and I trust you because you're a better cook than I am.
Well, I'm not sure about that, but anyway.
So what makes it a jambalaya? Why is jambalaya special? If you're just tuning in, Brian Tice is my guest. His book and his website is The Infinite Feast. So what makes it jambalaya? And it is a great Mardi Gras meal.
It is a great Mardi Gras meal. Again, it has the West African kind of rice thing going on, and all of those influences that come together to make it. I wouldn't really know exactly how to classify a jambalaya. I guess I would put it in the Creole category because it frequently has tomato in it. Now, one of the things about my recipe that is not really the same way someone in New Orleans might make it, and they might have a problem with me just like you have a problem with the hot dog aspect of it. I put the rice in later. People, I think, agreed that the orthodox way is to start with the rice and then slowly add the other ingredients until you get to the final jambalaya point. I like cooking the rice perfectly and then putting it in after I do all of the rest of the mixture, because it's just it doesn't freak the rice out. It's like the rice is still exactly as great as it was when you made it perfect and you're ready to rock. You know what I mean? Sometimes when you have rice at the early stage of a recipe, it can get kind of mushy, kind of, wimpy. And I'm sure that someone would say, well, I don't have that problem because I am so good at the way I make jambalaya. But I haven't seen that very frequently. I've seen a lot more mushy jambalaya rice than I have perfect rice. And
so we're going to care for the rice's personality in this. We're going to make sure
We are. Yes. And again, it's up to you. I mean, I'm not here to say, do it my way. I'm here to say, I'm giving you some ideas and I want you to, go out there and experiment and have an adventure and figure out what the right way is for yourself. I mean, that's the real adventure in life for cooking. Yeah.
Yeah, Brian, I mean, again, for everybody listening, what Brian just said, I think, is so key. If you don't consider yourself a good cook, if you consider yourself, well, I don't know, I'm nervous in the kitchen, you just gave what is probably the best message to your average, or people conceive themselves as less than average cooks. People get overwhelmed by all the Food Network and, the cooking shows and all. Oh, my God, I can't do that. But
that's true. They do.
Mm-hmm. Do it.
You can do it. Absolutely. And I'll compare it to my journey that I've been on for the past year to get to the point where I felt comfortable being with an extremely professional, outstanding anchor woman on, or maybe anchor person is like actor versus actress, anchor person on WGN. When I did my segment the other day, I was like, okay, I've talked to this wonderful, talented, extremely smart, very skillful person via Zoom for a year. And so I'm used to her rhythms and everything, the way that she talks, and I feel like I'm probably going to be okay once I get there in person. And I was. When I got to the studio, I wasn't super nervous. And I compared this, I go into this detail because it's like, the fear you might have of cooking a good meal, or the fear of, I don't know, showing up to do anything that you might have your nervousness about. You just have to keep on practicing. And I attribute that word to a very smart lady that I worked with to kind of help me get better on TV, or, remote TV, as I was doing for the past year. In Boston, she was the anchor of the 10 o'clock news for 18 years, I believe, something like that. And she said, never rehearse, because rehearsing means you will want to do it exactly the same way again. Always practice. And it's the same for being a good cook. You need to practice cooking. You need to be open to things that may inspire you to take a different route, be a different type of cook that night, as opposed to thinking, oh, I have to follow this recipe to the letter. Yeah, the recipes exist for a reason, especially baking recipes. You can't really mess around with them. But they also are there to inspire you to be creative. So it goes back to what you're saying about wanting to use your own sausage in the jambalaya recipe. You just have to keep on feeling confident about the way you're practicing.
And if you're just tuning in, Brian Tice is my guest. That's Theis. His book is The Infinite Feast. Okay, Brian, here's where we tell them how to subscribe to the newsletter. Where do they go for the newsletter? They've got their piece of paper. They've got their pen or pencil or Sharpie, as case may be. How do they get
Sharpies.
Newsletter?
I sign all my books with Sharpies. All you guys have to do is in your Google machine, just type in theinfinitefeast.com. You could also type in my name, BrianTheis. I, unfortunately, for all the other Brian Tices out there, have hogged the airwaves on the Google machine, and all you get are pictures of my face and my food when you Google Brian Tice. Anyways, you could do it that way, but The Infinite Feast will take you to my website. There is a lady that was drawn very skillfully by my absolutely adored friend and illustrator in Venice, Italy. She's holding a plate of spaghetti and meatballs. She will pop out into your face and she'll say, "Join the fun." And all you have to do is type in your email and I'll start sending them to you every week. Free recipes, free tips and tricks. I even have a puzzle in there, a word puzzle for you to do every week. So it's a bundle of fun.
You turned me on to the timer. I don't know if that was the last newsletter or a couple of
back. That was
and I
you don't have a timer?
I've always used the stove timer. I've not used the Oster timer that you put out there. So it's now on my Amazon. The next time I hit Amazon to buy it, it's going to be.
I mean, let's do the OXO people a favor. It's actually an OXO timer.
I screwed that up. All right, time is running out, which always runs out with you and me. You sent me these popular food trends that are coming up. There were a couple of interesting ones there, but what do you see as now that COVID's hopefully ending? People are eating. I went to a local restaurant at 5 o'clock. It's packed with people. People are eating out. But give me a couple of the new food trends that people should be watching for.
Well, I would focus on this one primarily. I mean, this website that I sent you is more of a vegetarian focus, has a vegetarian focus. And so they're talking about all the wonderful vegetable trends that are coming up, which I think are a very good idea. The one that stands out to me, because I have a friend who runs probably the most successful cocktail lounge in Asbury Park, and he was just talking about this the other day to me, is the alcohol-free cocktail trend. Literally, there are groups of folks, probably in the 20s age range, believe it or not, who are going alcohol-free. I think it might be coming out of Europe, don't quote me, but it's a situation where people are like, do I really want to be wasted all day? No. I mean, why not focus on the fruit juice and the other herbal things that we can put into these alcohol-free cocktails? And I think that is a huge trend that's coming up. I absolutely agree with this. So, yeah.
It's very cool. What is the name of the establishment in Asbury Park? We'll give your friend a shout out.
The Watermark.
Okay. Watermark. What do you see? Now, this is a question I never asked you, but do you have another book in the works?
I actually do. I can't. It's something that is under negotiation at the moment. My lawyers and everyone are doing their thing, and so I can't talk about it, but I do, and I'm excited about it. So stay tuned. Watch this space. Watch this secret space. So, anyway.
Well, if they type in Google Brian Tice, Brian Theis,
you're going to get to me one way or another. Yeah.
You're going to get the spaghetti lady's going to come up, put your email. Anybody who likes to cook, we all like to cook, we all like to eat. The newsletter is a blast. You can tell Brian's fun because I keep bringing Brian back on, but the recipes are good. I am promising Brian, I am going to make it right here, Ignatius, the hot dog jambalaya with hot dogs. So we're going to talk about that.
I can't wait.
Brian, thank you so much.
Dave.
Stay well. Keep doing well. One of these days we'll meet in person.
Yeah,
all right.
Absolutely. Take it easy. Bye-bye.
All right. Heather Mistrada is coming up in the next half hour to talk about how she's helping women in trouble. We'll be back after the news. Thanks, Brian.
WOND.
W223CO Atlantic City.